I'm sure it's probably a tough lifestyle, and you have to manage it pretty well to be successful and not get caught up in all that.
And so I had this crazy idea that if I joined the Marine Corps, people would take me serious if I was a Marine. So I did that. I joined the Marine Corps.
It's very evident that you let your spiritual principles guide you, right? And so nothing can compromise that.
Or that night, actually, the CEO of Republic Universal came up to me and he said, "Hey, this is who I am. These are our artists that we have." And they asked us to stay overnight in the city. And the next morning, they offered us a record deal. And then 6 months after that is when I got my brother signed.
Well, welcome to the Lane 13 podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having
me. So super excited about this episode because we have Scott Frazier here, and Scott and I were connected through a couple different people, but interestingly enough, we already had some past connections that we discovered. But Scott and I met up and we just had this great instant connection, and his story is pretty spectacular. Some of just his life experience, but some of the things that he's went through and endured and persevered through. And I just thought your story was super inspiring, and especially like your history in the music business is really, really cool. Kind of listening to that. So thank you for joining me on the podcast.
For sure. Thanks for having me. It's going to be some interesting things to talk about, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You just tell me what you need to hear from me, and we can rock and roll from there.
Well, I think maybe just kind of when we talked last time, you really started from how you got into the music industry. And I know that you're from Louisville, right? You were born and raised
the area,
here?
yeah. So I was born in Louisville, and then my dad was we lived in Indiana, but as a lot of us, you still are born on either side of the river. But I was born in Louisville, lived in Indiana. I lived everywhere actually, because I guess I could just jump right in. My dad was a preacher, as I told you guys, so. We bounced around a lot and went from my dad working in corporate America, to hey, kids, we're moving to Tennessee and your dad's going to be a preacher out of nowhere. And he did that. And we bounced around, and I went from a nice house to living in a trailer. And while my dad went to Bible college in Tennessee, and then we did bounced around a little bit there, and then really did church plants. So my dad would start a church, build it up, moving along. But at any rate, I grew up in the Indiana area, graduated from high school in Jeff. And that's really where the birth of my crazy dream of the music business started.
So you always wanted to be in the music industry?
Yeah, it's well, not when I was a kid, but it started because I had no clue what the music business was. You know what I mean? I didn't know what that was. But what I did know was that my brother was a musical genius. And I don't know. I think I told you guys, you and your husband. It's like when you see somebody that's super talented, but then all of a sudden you go, "Oh, wait a minute! This isn't just somebody that's super talented. This person has like a God-given gift." So that was my brother. He was playing like piano and writing songs and all these crazy things at 4 years of age. And I started to really identify probably like middle school. Like, hey, man, my brother has a God-given gift and a talent. So I started this crazy thing of like, hey, I'm going to get you discovered someday, and I'm going to be your manager. And I had no clue what that meant. And then fast forward to high school, my senior year, my teachers were all like, "Scott, what are you going to do when you graduate high school?" And I'm like, duh, I'm going to manage my brother's band. And they kind of were like, "Yeah, okay, buddy, what's that plan? What's that plan
What's the backup?"
B?" Yeah. But I just had this vision that I was going to get my brother discovered at any cost. And so I had this crazy idea that if I joined the Marine Corps, that people would take me serious if I was a Marine. So I did that. I joined the Marine Corps, earned that title. My brother, crazy enough, followed suit, joined the Corps as well. Played for the president's band, and then I got out. He got out. I worked in corporate America for 10 years while I was trying to figure this business out, and a lot of shoot down, nope. And then one day,
so what was that like, the shot down? So what did you do when you got shot down? How did that work?
it was really wild. So back in the old days, a lot of people probably won't know what this is, but like in the old days when you would try to reach record labels, if you were nobody, you'd get these recordings. They would just put you through to a recording. It'd be somebody would answer the phone. They realize that you're nobody, and then they'd kick you off to this answering machine.
So you would physically have to pick up the phone,
Call them,
and
hey,
call
I'm
these
so-and-so.
labels
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, I'm so and so, and I have somebody that's brilliant. You really need to see this
Exactly.
person."
And then they would be like, and your name is what? And then I tell them, and I try to act like a hot shot. I would do different tones of my voice. I would, just all the tricks, man. And then got a couple of names, but nothing crazy. And then one day I had this thought. I was like, you know what? Maybe these labels will take me serious if I have more than just my brother. Maybe if I find another artist, and I have a roster, they'll think I'm a hot shot, for real manager. So I ended up finding a band from Louisville, crazy enough, named Flaw, and I put that band in the studio. Told them who I was. I was like, I'm nobody. I know just a couple people, but I'm super tenacious, and if you guys will just give me a chance, I think we can do this. And fast forward, man, I bought this band all this gear, did all this stuff, pressed an EP, and then I just started calling all these labels that had told me no, except this time I spun it and said, hey, I'm going to come to you to New York City, which I had never been. I'd never been to New York. So I rented an RV, and a trailer, and I drove this band in New York City to play at world famous CBGB's under the pretense that I had all these hotshot label executives coming out to see this band, which I had asked them all to come. I just didn't know if they were, and drove them to New York City. And then the next morning, or that night, actually, the CEO of Republic Universal came up to me, and he said, hey, this is who I am. These are our artists that we have. And it was like Chubbawamba. You remember I get knocked down, but I get up again. Yeah. And then Godsmack and Oleander and Three Doors Down were all on the label. And they asked us to stay overnight in the city. And the next morning they offered us a record deal. And then 6 months after that is when I got my brother signed to Atlantic Records. I quit my corporate gig. And I never looked back, man. A 27-year career of just craziness.
And what kind of music did your brother play? Like, would I know?
They were rock bands. So he had a song that made it like top 20. And then I don't even know if I even told you this part when we met, but my brother got, went down a pretty dark path, got involved with some drugs and stuff. And I had no idea at all that was the case. And I pursued him the same way. He ended up losing his record deal, lost everything, lost all of his money, the whole deal. And I didn't know at the time. I was really, really like heartbroken because the whole time of growing up, it was always going to be me and you as bros, doing this together. And then
so it's like the love of your whole career was built off the
just
love
wanted to help
of
my
your
brother.
Yeah, like the brotherly love that you had for him. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and I just never felt the same because it's almost like I had to keep on going because my career was starting to really take off. But it always was a sad thing for me because it's like I wanted him there with me, but God had other plans, and so. I spent a great career of doing rock and roll bands predominantly. Most recently switched gears and, as I told you guys, found Bailey Zimmerman, who's, turned out to be a pretty big thing in the country space. But
what was life like doing that? I mean, how did you not get caught up in? I mean, I just feel like the lifestyle alone is pretty tempting. I mean, I don't know. It didn't take much for me to live that lifestyle. I didn't even have to be a rock star. But I'm sure it's probably a tough lifestyle, and you have to manage it pretty well to be successful and not get caught up in all that.
Yeah, it is. And like for a manager, I mean, I'm handling the business. It's like I'm not a tour manager. I'm handling these artists' careers, and I'm giving them the guidance and like, hey, this is the team, and it's almost like being the Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys. It's like you got to put your organization together, but yet you're holding the strings and working alongside with the artist to fulfill their vision of who they are as an artist. And it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of contracts. It's getting them a record deal, finding them a booking agent, finding them the right legal team, the right people to handle their money, and just really putting together a rock star team around the artist, and then overseeing all of those components.
Yeah. Did you have to do a lot of PR work with your artists and things like that?
I had to do PR control, if you will.
Right. That's what I meant, I guess.
Because there was
control.
because I would hire publicity people to handle the artist, but from time to time, artists like anybody can make bad decisions or say some things that they shouldn't have said, and then you've got to, crisis management, kicks in, and then figure out the right press release. What do we say, and how do we, what's the perception to the fans, etc. So it's just a lot of different. It's just a lot of moving parts. I enjoy that. I like the craziness of just the everyday music scene and what that entails and stuff. And just, I used this term in an interview I did once, and they asked me what my title was. And I said, well, I'm an artist manager, but I really think of myself as like a dream maker. Like I'm taking these artists and like going, what do you want to do? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to be in arenas? Do you want to, do you want to tour with Nickelback? What do you want to do? And then just really, helping to facilitate that. So that's I won't bore you with all the in-betweens, but it's a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool that you say it that way, because, I mean, I don't know, but all I have to go on is maybe movies or things that you see, you see
like
on
Jerry
TV.
Maguire. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I know especially like back in the 90s, and there was a lot of artists that really didn't get paid the way that they should have. Yeah. And it wasn't really about their dream or what they wanted to do or their goals. And so you kind of hear a lot of stories like that. So I just think it's cool that you approach things that way and kind of made them center stage. And this is your dream in your life, and I'm here to
I'm just an extension.
You.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because like in the business, like you just, I don't know, man. It's what's the word I want to use? Like you got to navigate, and I have to like show them like, nope, that's the dark side of the business, and then this is the lights. Let's stay on this side of the path. Because there are people out there that don't have, a good, the right mindset. They're trying to take advantage of it. I give my dad the credit for that, for just raising me the way he did and having faith. I told you when we met, Jesus is a big component of my life. I'm not a preachy guy, but I'm also, I know that he's the reason. And I try to be an example of that. I even tell my artists, I didn't used to in the beginning, I tried to kind of tiptoe around it because it's like, the perception. But the older I got and the more experience I got, I made that just very known. Like, hey, this is who I am. This is who I follow, and I'm going to handle business accordingly. And it's the reason why I stayed in Louisville my entire career. We touched on that before. Like, I had the opportunity to move to LA. I had the opportunity to move to New York. But I told my wife, who we've been together for a long, long time, I said, if I can have success and do what I do in music, but stay home, keep the kids like normal, let them be around their mama and their papa and all that stuff, then I can just go do the rock star stuff and come home and shield them from all that craziness of the music business, which I did. And it worked out good. I think my life would have been different if we would have been like in one of those hub cities. Yeah. Back to what you said initially, like how did I stay away from all the pull? I just knew that as a young man. Like, yes, there is riffraff, and yes, you can get tempted, and you can get pulled in, hey man, are you on the guest list for the Viper Room for the such and such? And it's like I don't really care. I want to break artists, go do the things that I do, and then I want to go home and be dad.
And I think that's what admire so much about you, Scott, is that it's very evident that you let your spiritual principles guide you, right? And so nothing can compromise that.
It's
right?
number one.
It's number one.
Yeah.
And I think that is important. And, me and my husband are the same way. Our spiritual principles guide us, and every decision, it comes first. It comes before our children, our marriage, everything. And as long as you let those spiritual principles guide you, right? I mean, life's not going to be smooth all the time, right? But in your heart that you can ebb and flow with life.
100%.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, and listen, I want to just be real clear about this. I say this as a joke. I'm never going to be the dude with a street sign saying Jesus saves, marching around outside, telling people they're damned to hell. Nobody likes that. It's just how you live your life.
Yes. You lead by example.
Yeah.
It's,
nobody wants all that other garbage.
Well, it's not really effective, right? It's really more for that person than it is for other people. But I think, the way that you approach things, you truly make it about the people that are around you, right? And there's a fine line between selfishness and selflessness, right?
100%.
It's a very fine line. And a lot of times there are things that people do that are masked as this is a selfless act. But really when you dig down, right, it can really be more of a selfish act. And like people pleasing and things like that. I used to tell my clients all the time that, they would say, well, my brother asked for $20 and I know what he's going to go do with it, and I just feel so bad for not giving him this $20. And I'm like, so really we can believe that it's selfless of us, right, to give him that $20. But if you give it to him, it is really selfish because you're not doing it because I really want you to have this $20, right? You're doing it because I don't want to feel bad for not giving it to
exactly.
you. So
we've been through that. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and it's really what connected you and I, because, whereas I've had this really cool career and everything, it's been riddled with loved ones and people that I care deeply about who've been affected by addiction, and which ultimately led to my brother not having his career. And but I didn't know it at the time. I was very bitter about it because I was like, wait a minute, God, this is me and my bro, we're supposed to be doing this together. But fast forward to today, and when I look back, I know now why I was allowed to go through that with my brother, because it gave me the tools and it gave me the wherewithal of what was about to come. And that was with my own daughter. So I didn't know it then, but he was preparing me for a battle. And as we all know, that battle never goes away, but it's by God's grace that my daughter's sober today. Yeah.
And I want to get into that here in a second. But that's been my motto with my kids is I don't try to protect, I try to prepare.
Yeah.
Right. Because I can protect them to a certain extent. Right. But I also don't want to shield them from everything in life because they'll never be prepared for, what lies ahead. But I want to get into that super powerful part of your story. But I do want to touch on one thing that you said just for a second. Okay. And that's the really cool thing about you discovering Bailey Zimmerman.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us a little bit about that? I just think it's really cool because a lot of people know who he is.
It was, so again, back to the faith thing, when the pandemic happened in 2020, there was a lot of uncertainty in our business. I had all these tours lined up, arena tours with some of my bigger artists, and then everything just went south, and you couldn't tour, you couldn't sell tickets, and so it's like we as industry veterans had to completely reinvent ourselves. And I say this jokingly, but it was true. It's like we became glorified merchandisers because we were like, okay, can't tour. That's the lifeblood.
It's the bread and butter, right?
So what can we do? So we were creating merchandise and creating all these bundles, and then doing crazy stuff like garage concerts, of which we did. Like, we were selling tickets for people to watch your artist perform a concert in your garage kind of thing, and sell tickets for that. Just anything to generate revenue for the artist. And I had been doing a lot of praying, and I don't want to sound like I just jumped into the country music space like just happenstance. I'm a country music fan. I'm a music fan. I'm an all genre fan. We touched
Me
about
too.
that.
I am too.
I like
I
hip
love
hop.
it.
I like rock. I like classic. I like it all. I love jazz sometimes. Just
Yeah.
those things. I listen to worship music probably more in the day than I do anything, because it keeps my mind sane.
Love some Lauren Daigle.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, during the pandemic, as all of us, we were like, okay, what's next? What are we going to do? We had no idea how long the pandemic was going to last or what tomorrow was going to bring. So I just did a lot of praying. Like, okay, God, what's next? What are you trying to take me here? And I'm in my 50s. We'll just leave it at that. And so
You don't have to reveal your age, Scott. It's fine. We don't do that on this podcast.
So here it is. Here this 50 plus guy is scrolling TikTok, because it's just mindless entertainment during the pandemic. And I'm literally sitting on my couch one night, and I'm just scrolling and laughing and being entertained like all of us, on TikTok. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there. My wife had already gone to bed, and a 20-second clip of Bailey popped up in my algorithm, popped up in my feed, and I heard his voice. It wasn't even that the song was a hit per se. It was just like I heard that vibrato in his voice, and I just heard that rasp, and it cut through the noise, and it didn't sound like everybody else. So most people in my business, it's all about how many followers, how many streams, all the things. But I didn't really pay attention to that. I did look at it, and I saw that he was starting to get a little bit of traction, but nothing that would make you go, oh my God, this dude's, on his way. But I just really loved him and his voice. And so I DM'd him on Instagram, which is weird in itself, a 50-year-old dude DMing a 20-year-old on an Instagram. Like, man, your feet sure look nice. No, kidding. But I reached out to him, DM'd him on Instagram, told him who I was, what I've done for a living, and et cetera. And he responded, like, very quickly. And that's where it began. We ended up signing him to a management contract. I brought in some partners, and the rest is history. 5 back-to-back number ones at country radio for a new artist is really remarkable. So it looks like, man, this dude just went from rock and roll and switched to country, and then boom. But I had developed and cultivated those relationships in the country space for a while. And it started with me making a phone call to one label executive that was a really good friend of mine. I can say his name. I reached out to Jason Flom. Jason Flom is signed, Kid Rock and Lord and, Matchbox 20 and Greta Van Fleet, et cetera, et cetera. And crazy enough is married to Muhammad Ali's daughter, which I didn't realize that until later on. But at any rate, reached out to him, and then another label found out that we were talking to him, and it just turned into this thing, and turned into a bidding war between another label and him, and that's just how it all started, and it's just been just crazy.
And I just I've always loved country music. I mean, I grew up on 90s hip hop, but before all of that, it was country, right?
Yeah.
It was country music. That's what my parents listened to. And I remember when country music just was not cool.
Me too.
Right?
Old school country.
It just, like it just was not cool. And over the past, 5 or 6 years, we've just really watched country music transform. And one of the things that I love about country music is they have been so welcoming to so many artists that historically would not have fit into that genre.
Yeah.
Like you think about Jelly Roll and you think about Hardy and people like that who just would not have really fit in there. And I think that a lot of them just weren't embraced by a specific genre, and country music welcomed them. And I just love that.
I do too. And plus I think country music is still, people, it's the underdog, and people still are into the redemption stories and knowing that you can be down on your luck and you can have success and all that. Country music embraces all that. Plus the lines are so blurred, like you said, with Hardy and everything. It's like there's now rock. And I say country music is the new rock, because it really is.
Yeah, where's the hip hop? Where's R&B artists anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, where are those people at? Like
it's very cyclic, and I really believe that there's
Yeah.
going to be that's going to pop back around. Like right now, country music is the dominating genre. Like it's worldwide. It's like that's the jam. But these other genres still are there. Rock is still there, and I think there's getting ready to be a resurgence of that too. I think that the more mainstream rock and that, as I call it, that new metal sound, I think it's starting to come back. People are hearing Limp Bizkit like more today now than they have in several years.
Yeah.
And I think that's an indicator of like what's getting ready to happen. I think there's getting ready to be a needle that's going to switch. It's going to go back to the rock. Country will always be massive.
Yeah.
But it just goes in cycles.
I know, but I don't feel like besides country, there's not country and pop, right? I feel like you got country and you got pop, but there's not a whole lot of other genres that are really coming out with music like it was in the 90s and 2000s, right? And so as a result, I feel like a lot of people are resorting back to the old stuff. Like more people listen to older music now than they, in the 90s or in the 2000s when I was younger than I am now. We didn't really go back and listen to, acid rock, maybe some Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin,
Still do that.
Yeah, still do that. But besides that, nobody really went back and like embraced old music like they do today. And I think it's because there's just such a lack of artists and just in the music industry altogether. It's
true.
Very strange.
Yeah, and there's a discovery factor too. Like, when I have 21-year-old twins, and a few years ago I had one of them come to me and he's like, "Dad, you ever heard this song Kashmir?" And I'm like, a gazillion times.
Right.
But these young kids are like from like video games and things like that. They're hearing a lot of these old school songs, and they're getting turned on to things that are to them it's like new and fresh.
Brand new.
But to us, it's like, wait a minute, welcome to the club. Bad Company? Oh, yeah, we can tell you about that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And, speaking of like Jelly Roll and Bunny, I swear I'm going to meet them one day. I feel like they are just my people. I feel like we're so much alike. Like I can just watch them. And have you ever just felt like you just knew somebody before you met them? Like that's how I felt about them. And the same thing with Winona Judd. Her and I, we text, and I've got to meet her several times. Her daughter, she's sent me to concerts. I've got to take my daughter backstage, and my whole life I felt this connection with her. Like I felt like I knew her. Like their music was the epitome of my childhood. And so the way that God led me to her and we got connected was just one of the most magical things in my life.
Cool.
It is really cool. And I feel like that about Jelly and Bunny too, because I listened to him before he ever got big years ago.
Hip-hop,
yeah, man, so just so much love and respect for those folks. And
they're real. And
I can tell.
Yeah, and I've met them both and had the pleasure of meeting them both, and I can tell you that they're the genuine article. What you see is as real. And people pick up on it. They know if they're being fed a bunch of BS.
Yes.
And they're not there. It's like real and raw.
Yeah, and I can tell that they're like that. I can feel it through the screen. Like I'm a very good judge of character, and Winona was the same way. Like I just knew that she was who she is, and the many times we've texted and talked on the phone, and I've been in her presence. Like she's just exactly,
Yeah. And the people listen, people resonate with that because everybody likes the underdog. Everybody likes the redemption. Everybody likes I was this and now I'm not. They like those stories and they buy into that because let's be real, we all are that. We've all been broken. We've all, I could sit here and there'd be a whole other podcast that we could talk about just the mistakes and all the things that I've done in my life. But
it's the authenticity, authenticity just has such a high frequency,
Yeah.
like I can connect with authenticity
Me too.
more than anything
And pick up on it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know if you're full of crap.
Yeah, I can just pick up my husband. He's like, you're like an antenna or something, because
Same way.
I can tell before. There was one time somebody was coming over to our house, and I was so uneasy about it. I was like, I just don't want this person to come over here, and I couldn't really pinpoint it, but I just knew that I did not feel right. And he was just like, why are you being like this?
Yeah.
And it was actually a kid. It was a kid, and I just felt so uneasy about it. And sure enough, when that kid ended up coming over, it was a disaster. And by the time they left, he was like, well, that's never happening again. He was like, how did you know that? And I'm like, I feel like I'm so spiritually in tune, like I can feel it. I can't explain it.
I have a theory about that too. I think that people who have gone through or have experienced some type of trauma, whatever that may be, like I have a really keen, I know I can talk to somebody. My wife's like, oh, they're fine. They're as nice as can be. And I will go, oh no, they're not. They're completely not that.
Yes.
And it's like it's like my radar on that is so in tune, but it stems back from just as a childhood, from my childhood, whereas my dad was a preacher, I also went through some pretty traumatic things as a kid, and I just have learned to, like, I can read people so good.
Well, it's a spiritual thing too. I think the closer you are to God, because you have that God conscious about you.
Big time.
And I think that has a really big part in it for me, because I used to not be able to tell. When I was a mess, I definitely couldn't tell. But the more spiritual I get and staying in like my spiritual practice and things like that, I just feel like I can see clearly,
Yeah.
So, but
He gives us clarity, that is for sure.
Yeah. So, I do want you to share a little bit about some of those things that you've been through. And I just think your story's so powerful, what you shared with me.
Yeah.
And I know that you have overcome so much, your entire family. And, it's made you better. It's made you a better dad. It's made you a better person. So, I do want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll give you just to go back to my brother, I went through that with my brother. I don't want to go into all the semantics, but he went down a dark path with addiction. It's something that God put in me, and that's just part of my character. People that I love, it's not just my daughter, just people that I love. I can't just let them suffer and not go after them. So I feel this like inner calling to go pursue them. And really that comes from I guess I can just say it, from a God thing. It's like, I believe, regardless of what anybody else believes,
Right.
I believe that God is our Father.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that any good dad pursues his children, no matter what. And so that's always the way I looked at it. I just looked at it like, and I share a mantra that we talk about at our church, where we leave the 99 to go get the one. Me as a dad, I feel that I'm like the shepherd of my flock. Mm-hmm. And when one of the sheep is outside of when he's lost, then I need to be the one to go find him. And I put that into practice. I started with my brother. Fast forward down the line, it ended up happening with my own daughter, which I never thought it ever would. But, my daughter struggled with addiction for many years, and I want to protect. excuse me. I want to protect her as much as possible in how I say this, but just a lot of years of drug addiction, and me pursuing her. And the times that I found her, as I told you guys, just finding her like a needle in a haystack, because I just would go get in the car and just drive aimlessly, because I started to learn, like, where is she getting these drugs? Who are the people that she's running around with? And I probably know more about places to get drugs than I should as somebody that
You're like a private investigator.
I should
You
be.
turned
I know.
into a private
I know.
investigator.
I probably should be. I should have done that in a whole nother life. But, and there has been multiple times that I have found her just like a needle in a haystack. And I shared it with you, something that really changed the trajectory of what I was going to do with my life. And I will share that. Having the success in the music business, I was dealing with that addiction with my daughter, and and I know that God put me in a position to be self-employed and to be able to, on this drop of a dime, to go just get in a car and go drive around and find her no matter where she was. And I believe that if I would have worked in like regular corporate America, I never would have been able to do that. I couldn't just up and leave in the middle of the day. So I believe that was purposeful and was divine as well. But fast forward to anybody that struggled with addiction knows that it's, there's a lot of relapses that happen. It's sobriety, relapse, and then you hope and you pray that those relapses are farther apart. And they were with my daughter. We struggled with it for a long time together, and it just reminds me of and it's the story that I shared with you guys. She had relapsed. Typically, she would call me, hey, Dad, I just want to let you know I'm on the streets, but I'm warm, or I've got some food, and I just don't want you to worry. This particular time, she relapsed, and she just disappeared, and I didn't know where she was. And after 3 or 4 days, I started to tell my wife, I'm like, something's different this time. And I woke up on a Saturday morning one morning, and I just had this feeling like that it's almost like a dream that I'd had, that I had to go find her like right now, because if I didn't, she was gonna die. She wasn't gonna make it. And I picked up my keys, and I told my wife, I said, I'm leaving. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, no, I'm going to find her. And I didn't know, had no clue where I was driving. I didn't know where I was going to do. And I started driving towards Portland. And I know a lot of people probably don't know what that is, but around here, as we all know, that's not no diss to anybody who lives in Portland, but it's just not the best part of town. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. But at any rate, I drove around for hours in that part of town, just up and down streets looking for her. And I had Narcan with me, and I had no luck. And I was listening to worship music. I was praying. I was crying. I was all the things. And I pulled over, and I just asked God. I was like, I said, just please let me find her. Because if I don't find her, I just feel like she's going to die today. And I got back in my car, and I started driving again, and I started going down this road. And the further I got down the road, I saw this car kind of parked kind of cockeyed on the street. And I'm thinking to myself, God, look at this jackass, whatever. And then the closer I get to this car, I'm like, well, damn, that looks a lot like Abigail's car. Closer I get, I'm like, oh, it has Indiana tags. And then turns out it was her car. I found it like a needle in a haystack there. And it was parked outside of this really suspect house in Portland. Had razor wire around it. And I'm like, I don't know really what trap houses are, but this sure looks like one to me. And I was seeing people go in. There was no door. The door was like wide open. And people were just going in and out, in and out. And I was like, okay. So I guess it's that Marine Corps fearlessness. I just got out of my car, and I walked in, had guns pulled on me, asked me what I was doing in there. And I told them, I said, hey man, I'm just not trying to cause any problems. I'm just a dad looking for his daughter, and I know she's here. Her car's out there. I know she's in here. Just let me look. And I ended up finding Abigail in the back room of that place. And we might want to take that out. But at any rate, I found her in the back, and she was literally, her lips were purple. She was almost dead. And I gave her the Narcan, and that didn't get her. And I gave her the second one and got her. And I called EMS. I'm carrying her out in my arms out this door. And when I get through the doorway, there's this girl that was standing there. I told you this, and the girl was standing there, and she started crying, and she looked at me, and she said, "I wish my daddy would come and save me." And it just really, it hit me really hard when she said that, but it didn't hit me as hard until I got her, Abigail, to the EMS. And
You were
then
out of crisis mode.
And then I got in my own car, and I started to drive down the road after all that had happened, and I just pulled over, and I just lost it. And I really, something changed in me that day to where I was like, okay, I'm not their dad. I can't rescue them all, but my goal is I want to introduce them to the daddy that will come and save them. And that's really become a mission for me, and something that I feel like God's pulling me into a new chapter of my life. I am no longer working with Bailey Zimmerman. I relinquished my half of my interest in him to the partners that I was with, and so he's in good hands. And it allowed me to have the resources that I needed to do. I'm still going to stay in the music business because I can't ever just walk away from that. But I can pick and choose. But my heart is really towards that. Like, how can I go save these people? What can I do to lead them to hope? Because that's really all they want. And so that's that story. Just really crazy.
What a powerful story. Yeah. That is just, man. That is just such a spiritual story. Because first of all, your relationship with God and your spirituality led you there. Like, if you had not been in such close contact with God, and
I believe that
that led you there. I mean, it's so evident that when you have a relationship with God, like you do, and then the second thing is that it sounds like you were able to save your daughter, but you felt like you left the other girl behind.
I did. Yeah. And I didn't really understand that. I mean, there's so many stories. I mean, there's one that I haven't even told you. And if you got a quick second, I'll tell you, because it's really crazy. So one of the time right before that, same situation. She disappeared, gone. Nobody had seen her. I ended up tracking her down to this place in town called Dosker Manor, and it's just not a good place to be.
It's worse than Portland.
It is, and I didn't know. I'm just naive, and I showed up there, and I have some friends of mine who are private investigators, and they actually helped me. But it's so wild how I found her there. When I tracked her down to there, I didn't know that she was there, and I met with the security, and they said, well, we have security desk in all of the different towers. There's 3 towers. And so I convinced the security people to let me come in their office with them and look through all the videotapes of people who had been coming and going, because it is very secure as far as that. Like, there's cameras. They know who's coming in. You can't go into rooms without an ID, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually went into Dosker Manor, and I was looking at all these videotapes, and then I'm like, because, we know our children. We know the way they walk. And I saw her, and I was like, she's here. But there was no video of her leaving. So I was like, I know she's in this building. I stayed there all day hoping that I would flush her out. And I did. Later that afternoon, about 5 o'clock, the security people are like, she ran out the back. She ran out the back. She's on foot. She's taken off. She took off running. And I ran, and I lost her. And I ended up coming back, and I said, is there any chance that you guys have security cameras on the outside of this building? And they were like, we just had them installed like a week ago. And I'm like, well, let's see if maybe we can see the direction that she was running in. And sure enough, I see her on camera running, and lost her, but I saw the direction that she was heading, and it was heading towards the homeless camp downtown near Dosker Manor, actually. And at that time, this girl comes up to me. Her name was Victoria, and she had seen me there all day. And she said, I've been watching, I've been paying attention. I'm a floor manager here. Honey, nobody's going to mess with you, with me here. Let's just, blah, 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 what's going on? And I said, well, this is the deal. And she's like, well, I'm going to go with you. Let's go find her. And I was like, well, I don't know where she is. I just know the direction that she went in. So this lady gets in my car, a perfect stranger. But before we left, I said, I don't know if you have faith and you believe in God or anything, but I do. Let's me and you pray together. So we did. And we drive around the homeless area, and I'm driving around for a while, looking in all the tents. I'm seeing people using drugs. It's very scary there. Mm-hmm. And no luck. So I said, you know what? Let's just ask homeless people here. Let's just ask them. And so I drove my car, and I called the very first guy that I saw. I called him over to my vehicle, and I said, hey, have you seen this girl? And I showed a picture of my daughter. And he goes, immediately he goes, she's right over there. And he points, and he's like, she's in that second tent, the gray one. Well, I'm like, there's a lot of gray tents here. So I park my vehicle, we get out, we start looking in these tents, and I looked back to that dude to say, hey, which one of these? Well, that guy was gone. No sign of him. And then all of a sudden, that same dude comes pedaling past me on a bicycle, didn't look at me, made no eye contact or nothing, and just pedaling on his bike. And while he's driving past me, he goes, it's the second gray one. It's the second gray one. Keeps on driving. Victoria said, I see somebody moving in that tent. Same thing. Found her. I ended up having her. I violated her probation. I called her probation officer. I told him what she had done, and they got her to the hospital, got her well. Well, the best part of the story is that girl, the next day I went back and I wanted to just thank everybody that took the time to help me. Yeah. And I didn't know where Victoria was, but I was hoping maybe I would see her there. And when I pulled in, she saw me, because you can see, and mm-hmm. everybody can see who pulls in. And she came running out to my vehicle, and she's like, oh my God, I thought I'd never see you again. And I said, well, I just wanted to say thank you for what you did. And she looked at me and said, I know yesterday I told you that I didn't believe in God and I didn't believe in any of that stuff, and that was all hocus pocus. She said, but you and I prayed and we found your daughter. She said, I want to know all about that. And I said, okay. I said, so I'll take you to church with me. I drove, I call it the hood. I drove to the hood every day.
It kind of is.
To go pick this Victoria girl up every single day for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the coolest part of the story is I ended up baptizing her. I led her to Jesus, man. And she still to this day calls me from time to time, and it'll be something like this. Scott, you have to get here right now. I found another one. Her name's Kiki, and she's 19, and she's being sex trafficked, and these guys are doing mean things to her, and she has nowhere to go. And I'll just hop in a car, and I'll just go scoop them up and get them the heck out of there.
Yeah.
And so it's just those kind of stories that all led me to the thing with Abigail and all that. It's just like there's been too many of these that's like I feel like that's a divine thing, and that God wants me to do that. So that's what I'm going to do.
So when all that is just like these remarkable stories that are unbelievable.
It just
right?
happens over and over. Yeah.
And so one of the things that I believe in, and I got into recovery through abstinence-based 12-step recovery programs, mm-hmm. right? So it's, a lot of people frown upon it now, a lot of my harm reduction people, and there's a lot of different variations of recovery, but I'm just old school. Like I got sober, Alcoholics Anonymous, 12-step recovery. I had a sponsor, read the big book. I can recite the big book from cover to cover. And, the 12 steps is really just leading you to the spiritual solution, mm-hmm. right? It's leading you to God. And you don't know that while you're in it.
Correct.
You come out on the other side of it. But, one of the big things in that 12-step recovery teaches us is there's something called vital spiritual experiences. So when you look at 12-step recovery, the goal is to have a complete psychic change, right? And so if the 12 steps cause a complete psychic change, one of the main ingredients for that change is vital spiritual experiences. And so as we're going through our recovery process and we're getting closer to God, right? And as you are continuing your practice and getting closer to God, you have these vital spiritual experiences. And they say the word vital, right, in the big book because it is absolutely vital for recovery.
Wow.
And it's not a spiritual experience. Spiritual experiences lead to a spiritual awakening. So there's two different things. Spiritual experience is an event. A spiritual awakening is a state of being, right? It's the end result, is having this spiritual experience. But, having these spiritual experiences is just, it's such a essential ingredient because it brings you closer to God, every experience that you have. And they can be very small or as big as what you're describing, right? Because you've had some pretty significant spiritual experiences.
Yeah, and it in itself made me draw closer too, because I'm like, goodness, man, like this isn't by chance. Like this is divine.
Yes.
Like nobody will ever tell me that is not a divine driven thing. So.
And I think that's the key, right? That's what it is because when you know with everything in you that nothing you did caused this, you have no choice but to believe, right? And I had my best friend Sarah went through the healing place together, and she ultimately passed away in 2016. Years later, probably like 2020, maybe, 4 years later, I taught class every Wednesday at the Women's Healing Place for all the women there. And I would do it on the disease concept every time of how alcoholism is a disease, how it impacts you. And I had my big book, and it's tethered and torn apart and marked up and highlighted and, falling apart. I had to keep a rubber band around it. And I was teaching class, and I looked down and I seen where she wrote in my big book, and it said something like "love you," and she put a page number and highlighted it. And I thought, why have I never seen this? Never seen where she wrote this in my big. As many times as I've opened that book, I'd never seen it. I go to the page, and it said that we must stick together, or some of us will die alone. And it was in the excerpt of the Vital Spiritual Experiences. And I lost it. And it was like she was sending me this message all these years later that she had sent to me before she passed away. And I can't, it says a little bit more than that, but it was just like 3 sentences. But ultimately it said that we alcoholics must stick together or else we will die alone. And she died alone in her bed. And so it's just those things, and it's those moments, it's those things that I know was nothing but God that, gets us, right? And so you are so spiritually attuned. I just admire that about you. And those spiritual experiences led you, to where you are today.
Well, the thing that's the best part, I don't know how much time we have left, but the best part of the whole thing is, and I told you and your husband, is what I want to do with it is, and I'm in the process of putting it all together, is doing an event at our church. I believe that people don't want to be preached at, but I believe that music is such a powerful thing. And I believe that God gave me this crazy music career, not because he wanted me to be just this cool manager. I think it was all for a time such as this. And so what I'm doing now, and my vision is to go back to what that girl said. I want my dad to come and find me or rescue me. Well, I want to bring people, and I want to have music be the catalyst, and I want to have a night of worship music, just music. Maybe have a couple of special guests, and have videos and stories of people that have overcome and how they did it through their faith. How God showed up and how their dad did find them, and with the purpose of, and I want to be real specific. I don't want to have people, I don't want you to come, if you're clean, great, But I'm not just looking for that. I'm looking for you to come as messy as you are, even if you're in your addiction. Like, I want you to come and experience that music and feel it and hear those stories and find hope.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole vision. So there's more things, as you know, I'm working on as it comes to that. But, you know, as that gets closer, I'll be happy to reveal all that stuff that you can share with folks as well. So,
yeah, well, I'm really excited, and, you know, your daughter's doing well.
She is.
And I think that's such a bright spot in all of this. She's well right now, and thank God. And
thank God.
Right. Thank God. And so that makes
And crazy
me happy.
enough, you knew my daughter, which we did not know until we talked.
That's
and
right. Yeah. We've crossed paths, and, you know,
so it's so wild to me.
Yeah. So just so grateful, and super excited about everything you have coming up, and any way that, you know, I can support or we can support you in that. We'd love to, you know.
And that's really kind, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
For sure. But I just appreciate you, Scott, for taking the time.
Thank you, Elena.
It's such a great story. I love it, and I can't wait for the episode to come out.
Oh,
so
cool.
You can check us out on It's Lane 13 podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So, but have a great day.